Born in Ilford in December 1934, Maggie Smith is one of Britain's most recognisable and prolific actresses. A national treasure with 2 Academy Awards, 5 BAFTAs and 3 Golden Globes, to name just a few. Her first Oscar, the prime of Miss Jean Brodie in 1970. She began her career on stage though in the 1950s. After seeing Smith in The Double Dealer at the Old Vic, she caught the eye of Laurence Olivier, who invited her to become part of his new National Theatre Company. Soon after it was formed at the Old Vic itself in 1962. Over the following decades, Smith established herself alongside Judi Dench as one of the most significant British theatre performers. Both their trajectories, from there, was written in the stars. From the 1970s onwards, household name stardom came from her TV and film work. In the last 2 decades, younger audiences will know her from the Harry Potter franchise, Downton Abbey, Lady and the Van, and many more. The go-to actor when filmmakers wrote characters forthright, with wisdom and wit, and someone with the heritage and gravitas to fill a screen in its entirety, often with just a wry look. Smith was made a dame in the 1990 New Year's Honours List by Queen Elizabeth II for services to performing arts. She passed away peacefully, aged 89, in Chelsea and Westminster Hospital.
It seems James Dickman had this report and spoke to those who say the move doesn't go far enough.
At its recent peak, the average Londoner worked 38.6 hours a week in 2017. After the pandemic, though, the average dropped to around 37.2. Though since the third quarter of 2021, the time people spend at their computer or in the office appears to be trending downwards in a new age of flexi working, with Fridays becoming more of a half day, if a working day at all, particularly among white-collar workers. The government's Make Work Pay plan could see full-time workers be given the right to ask their employers to work a 4-day week to increase flexible working, which they think will boost productivity. It's not akin to more leisure time yet though, as employees would still have to work their full hours to receive their full pay, but could request to compress their contracted hours into a shorter working week. Conservative Shadow Business Secretary Kevin Hollinrake claimed businesses were petrified about the idea. The 4-day week campaign say it's a step in the right direction. They campaign for a no-strings-attached 4-day week that would see the number of hours in the office drop to a maximum of around 32, with no loss of pay. They've carried out trials and say it works both in terms of productivity and staff well-being.
We're sick and tired of the 9-to-5 5-day grind, so we're doing something about it.
I mean, we broadly welcome this move, and we think that's because, it's in recognition of the fact that clearly everything is pointing towards a kind of future of work where we are working 4 days a week. We think that recognises that. However, this is not a kind of reduction of hours. It doesn't come with a reduction of hours for workers, which we've always said is crucial, which the research does show is crucial for, improving work-life balance and well-being of workers, but also on the other side, maintaining productivity. There is a danger of kind of compressed hours. People work, particularly where you're working 40 hours a week or longer. Having 4 very long working days can, also present problems. So we broadly welcome the move, but we would say, that all these arguments were made 100 years ago when we moved from a 6-day working week to a 5-day week. Arguments that the economy will suffer, workers won't be able to adapt, and it just isn't true. The trial we ran in 2022 was 61 companies, a range of different industries and sectors, and working hours were reduced to at least 32 hours or less, with no reduction of pay for workers. And the benefits speak for themselves. There was huge reductions in staff turnover, huge improvements in job retention, job recruitment, productivity levels were at least maintained, in some cases improved. And the reason for that is because when workers are better rested, when they have a better work-life balance, when they're happier in life, they're also then more motivated and more efficient in their workplace. So those benefits are passed on back to the employer. So the results did show, it really was a win-win.
When Labour came to power earlier this year, they promised to make flexible working the default from day one for all workers, except where it wasn't feasible, for example, teachers or hospital staff.
Economic growth is our number one mission.
Details are expected in the autumn when a law to create a new package of workers' rights is expected to begin its journey through Parliament. The Tories' Holland Rake said Angela Rayner's French-style approach will make it more expensive to do business in the UK, but Labour say any changes to employment legislation will be consulted on, working in partnership with business.
James Dickman reporting on plans for a 4-day week in some industries there.
James Dickman reports.
Because you've got shared experiences.
Yeah, and because you're...
Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, said he is not safe as a Muslim politician and was triggered by the far-right riots across the UK and London in recent weeks. Khan has a 15-strong team of police officers who protect him around the clock and faced death threats after his 2016 election victory. He likened the scenes we've seen to the racial tensions he faced growing up in the 1970s and 80s in South London, drawing comparisons to his encounters with far-right groups like the BNP and National Front. Separate to the chaos we've seen, just yesterday we reported on the anti-ULEZ activists charged with harassing the mayor outside his home over expanding the anti-pollution scheme. The mayor also criticised former Conservative ministers for their rhetoric, including Lee Anderson, who was one of Reform's 5 MPs since the recent election.
This sort of language leads to people believing some of this stuff. I think great politicians, good politicians, address people's fears. Poor ones play on people's fears.
Khan also urged the government to rework plans for new social media laws, as the riot's disinformation origin shows the Online Safety Act, in his words, is not fit for purpose.
I think the platforms should do a better job in making sure that misinformation doesn't spread the way it does. They should think about their algorithms. They should do a better job taking down disinformation, not just X, by the way. There are other social media platforms as well that we know are being used to propagate hatred. At the same time, I think politicians should be responsible in relation to spreading information on the platform.